Hello, friends. We've got a great show for you today. I think it's a breakthrough. So get this. What if we all kind of stopped being, wishy-washy, acknowledge that God actually exists and is actually fairly easy to connect with and become a conduit of? And what if God has kind of a nice, harmonious plan for Earth? And if we all got on God's team and we stopped outsourcing our connection with God to like outer authorities and rituals and belief systems and techniques and whatever, and just went direct, a direct message, a DM to God. Tell us what you want us to do, we'll do it. And what if that connection was just simpler than we might imagine? It's just a matter of doing it. Come join my husband, Richard, and I as we explore this topic, all inspired this morning by listening to a video from Ernest Holmes, linked below. Hello. We had kind of a mutual epiphany this morning that we wanted to share with you. For years, together and separately, we've explored spirituality, deeper knowledge, sometimes therapies, just things to sort of improve the human condition. And it has been mostly in the context of a personal sort of quest, for each of us. But lately, the last few years, it seems like things have gotten crazier and crazier in the world. We've seen more conflict, and God knows where it's going. I personally, particularly, have felt some urgency to explore more deeply the connection between our states of mind, each of us, and all of us, and what goes on in the world. I mean, some philosophies, like the Course in Miracles, which Richard studied a lot, and other things, emphasize the idea that the world's a dream, and it's really kind of an illusion. And other things say it's like a game, or it's a drama, and some of this goes back to ancient Vedic teachings too. I mean, there may be some truth to this, for sure. And then a lot of people talk about it's important to raise our frequency in this time, and that affects everybody. Okay, then within that, there's like, how do you do it? Do you follow a meditation technique? Do you listen to various teachings? Do you read? Do you practice mindfulness and so on? Well, this morning, if something came into my feed, it was a video, which I'll post down below, by Ernest Holmes, many years ago, I think, on the radio kind of broadcast. Was talking about basically how to see yourself connected to God. Like we just need to open our conduits. You can see it as like we each have maybe like an energy cord or something. It probably isn't coming from one direction like that, but from everywhere, like from the quantum field in today's language. Like there's a never-ending stream of intelligence, energy, well-being, love, all of that we're each bathed in, I guess you'd say. Yeah, but we can shut it off or distort it through the way we think. So if we ignore it, we can probably dampen down its overall energy. But we can also, because we all are creators, whether we know it or not, our ordinary kind of negative thinking, just kind of everyday, gossipy, distracted kind of thinking, dilutes that power, or just intellectual pursuits and meanderings of the mind and so on, the monkey mind. So what Holmes is suggesting is to really take like 10 minutes or more every day and to just feel with an emotional sense or a felt sense, to feel our connection with the divine. So the question is really, how do we do that? Maybe we each have our own way of doing it. What is it for you, Richard? Would you say? Where do you, and how do you, as quickly as possible, touch in with that divine power?
I think it's just simply becoming aware of it in my consciousness and turning to it. Because usually as I go through my daily life, I'm not thinking that way.
Right.
I'm thinking more about I have things to do. And
right.
I'm a little limited being that has to try hard
Right, just the way we all tend to think, the way we're conditioned to think.
Yeah, and what attracted me in the video was he's basically saying there's just one life, which is, you could say, the life of God living through us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already complete, good, perfect. And that, to me, was a great relief. It's sort of like, well, I guess, I don't have to struggle so hard to make myself worthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of letting it happen.
Yeah, and I was
committing.
Right, and for me, it was like, you don't have to kind of I've been taking Lynn Taggart's Power of Intention training and the group that follows thereafter, and people get into real specific things they want, and they work together. Might be something like, that they want to have a certain amount of money by a certain date or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what Holmes said this morning just made me feel more like turning it over to God. Like, it's just that you just tap into and allow that energy to come through you as a conduit. And it's like he likened it to turning on the switch.
Mm-hmm.
You come into a room, you turn on the switch, and the power is there all ready to go, but you have to turn on the switch. And so for me, the quickest way, and I think this whole thing we're talking about today is how to keep it simple, because we can all get real complex about our various different meditation techniques or prayers or books we read, or we're going to ignore it all, or it just seems like too much work or it gets confusing. But we can keep it really simple. And for me, it's just as simple as like, oh yeah, if I just choose to, like you said, I can just feel a happy energy inside, a good feeling. And if I just think of that personally, like, oh, that's nice, okay. But if I think of that, it's like, that's God coming through me. Whenever I'm feeling that, that is also not only healing and contagious and spreads to the world and kind of raises the whole amount of light in that field, you might say, but it also guides us. It brings about synchronicities. I mean, just things fall in place. Because if you look at it like it's all one mind, really, that's ideally orchestrating the world in a beautiful way, harmonious way, if we each tune into the guidance of that, then things will go harmoniously. If we each kind of want to do our own thing, or we get confused, or we get kind of chaotic, then that's how the world becomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it as relieving me of the pressure that I have to sort of create good and bring it out, and
right.
And the view that he's giving us, or Ernest Holmes giving us, is more like it's already there.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just let it happen.
Let it happen. Surrender.
Stop interfering.
It's more like being receptive and surrendering. It's not. Yeah. So that also gets around the problem of ego, which always seems to enter into not only every daily life, but it enters into spirituality and religion. I mean, and politics, of course, all of that. Ego is kind of our main problem. We get prideful, or we get attached, or we get identified with things. But if we're all kind of on the same page, working on the same team, which is God's team, creating a beautiful world in harmonious existence that works for everyone, then it's simple. All you have to do is just basically follow the guidance of a good feeling and keep returning to that. If we make that our number one priority, instead of getting caught up in, say, just the latest distractions.
I think another angle on it is to emphasize what is an obstacle to that happening. Mm-hmm. If it's there, ready to come out and manifest itself, that's our function. Mm-hmm. To be a conduit, you might say, of what's good, what's love. Mm-hmm. What interferes with it? Well, it's primarily the activities of our mind that focus on fears and concerns about accomplishment, efforts to make ourselves worthy, feeling that we're victims, all that stuff, I think, that it distracts our consciousness to be focused on something that's not really the same, and is acting like an obstacle to the flow.
Right. And those thoughts are nevertheless powerful, maybe in a more scattered way. Like they might, one of them's going this way, one of them's going that way, and this way. And so it's kind of like the difference between a scatter shot, and a weapon. This is kind of, it's very pointed, right? I mean, like a buckshot, versus something that's very pointed. It's more powerful. And so not that we're being weaponizing here, but I mean, to be effective, you know, to hit the target, which is the highest good for all. How do we know when we're off of that? Well, mostly when we're just kind of finding ourselves kind of dreaming about this and that. And, you know, one of the things that's been a bit of a conundrum for me is, you know, has been like how much to attend to the news of what's going on in the world today. And I feel like if I can listen to that while in that heartful, loving state of mind, actually, that's somehow helping the whole situation. And also it tends to bring the more positive into that news, into my feed, I think, you know, and just to kind of like, okay, well, this is going on, you know, it'll work out, you know, and so, and then that thought goes into the field, it goes into what Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere, sort of the shared human unconscious or collective mind.
Yeah.
I
think also a good guide is how you feel.
Yes.
If your mind is active and you're not feeling good, you're feeling worried or frightened or inadequate, then you're caught up in that.
Or just stressed out, like over-focused, you know, I gotta get this done and that done.
Yeah. Whereas if you're just simply letting the good come through, which is natural and requires no real effort on your part,
yeah, it's more relaxed.
then you feel good. You feel peaceful.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good way to distinguish.
Right. I think so too. And you might get an impulse to go do something, and then you might run into somebody, and then a synchronicity happens. And those synchronicities are so, you know, encouraging and beautiful. And sometimes very magical things happen too. You know, like we were talking this morning about some of the magical things we've witnessed, like a sign from my parents one time with this meteor shot through the sky, and it came. We had been kind of sensing their presence, and I said, I don't think my parents were up to sending a meteor, which you suggested. But but maybe God is. And 2 seconds later, wham, it came through. It's like, whenever we bring God into the equation, and those kind of little, you know, things where we've played around with reality, that's when it happens. You know, it's not when we say, okay, I'm going to really focus on this thing happening, you know, no, it's not. It's not about I, it's about God. And God is the good. God is love and what feels good. You know, on a similar topic, I've been lately doing a little bit of a deep dive into Satanism and into kind of the dark side.
I think I'll leave now.
No, okay. It's always you know. So the dark side, like, what's that about? And I was just listening to a different podcast, which kind of brought a little bit more insight to me. I mean, you could look at it like we're all innately gifted with powers of creative imagination and mind that co-creates the world. And so if that comes through in a pure way from the good feeling, the godly feelings, if you will, of love and beauty and caring, compassion, joy, creativity, peace, then the things that are the kind of specific thoughts and the specific expressions that happen then are going to be of that nature. But likewise, some people like to play sorcery games, you know, with dark thoughts and really try to use the mind to do nasty stuff to other people. And this book I've been reading recently, which I'll link down below if you're curious, talks about in the world of Satanism, I mean, the dark level is just plain old psychopaths, or just people who are sort of really deeply disturbed, and they get involved in rituals and things, and it's a long story, but at the highest level are people who are kind of like sorcerers. I mean, they're really trying to exercise psychic power, but they're doing it in a sense like not in accord with God or the good, but in accord with something very destructive, and they're very egoic. All these people that this guy that wrote this book has outed are basically, they'll have like statues of themselves in their house, you know, portraits of themselves all over. Like they're worshiping themselves. And, you know, so.
Trying to make themselves strong.
But they can, in alliance with each other, do some powerful things. Like he mentions as a child, he was dragged into this sort of mock funeral one time where Kennedy's, it's a funeral for John F. Kennedy. And, you know, everybody's in black clothes and they got the wreaths and the pictures and the conducting a funeral. They got chants and music and flowers, all this stuff. But it's 2 weeks before he was assassinated. You know, so it's like, okay. And then you look at what happened with Trump, you know, last July. He, you know, the chances were that he would have gotten shot and killed. What happened there in Butler, Pennsylvania. But at just the right moment, he turned his head and avoided that. You know, just got a slight injury to his ear. And so, you know, people have said that was divine intervention. Maybe so, but you could also look at it like probably millions of people, especially Christians, have been praying for Trump's safety, I think. And so I think that millions of people now, or billions of people on the planet right now, would turn their attention to positive feelings, to feeling confidence and hope that things are going to work out, to knowing that, to allowing God to work through them and line us up with good feelings, be kind and compassionate towards each other. It's not like that's not like just pussy wussy. That's not like just, you know, ineffectual sort of like giving in, you know, to not standing up like a warrior or something to maybe some things that could be very difficult. It's actually a power. It's very powerful. I mean, just look at the mountains and the trees and the clouds. I mean, the power that made all that is so much greater than, you know, anything that you know, really. I mean, of course, the power to destroy that humans have come up with is very powerful. I mean, we could nuke the world into, but we can't create a world like this. And I think it's unlikely that we're going to destroy it. So we wanted to keep this just fairly brief and encourage each of you that's listening to just look at, you know, what is it that is the simplest possible way for you to immediately feel happy, to feel good, peaceful. It may help to use some words, you know, or some positive thoughts, but more likely it's just a matter of feeling a positive emotion in your heart, especially. And sometimes for me, I find it's helpful to just kind of breathe in and feel the energy in my whole body. And if I think of that in a personal sense, see, that's not the point. The point is if you feel that energy, that life force in your body as you breathe, and realize that that is the power and the force of God, and just let it percolate through every cell of your body in a healing manner, then it's like we're each, to use that analogy of the turning on the lights in the room, it's like we've each turned on our own light bulb. And the more that, or we've allowed it to turn on, the more that people that do that, the more light shines upon any darkness in the world. And it's, darkness can't survive in light. I mean, maybe if you do that analogy, like say it's the middle of the night, it's very dark, okay, just a small candle or flashlight goes a little ways, but not super far. But if you had a whole bunch of lights come on, there's no darkness anymore, really, you know.
It pretty much covers that, I think.
Yeah. I've been creating some ambient music also, which I'll link down below the playlist. And I've been finding it personally, and you might also find this helpful, to just have it on in the background when you're taking the time each day to try to tell that yourself to be a conduit of love, of God's love, of energy, of guidance. And just allow that or some other kind of beautiful music, perhaps, to just keep you in that zone. And what Holmes was saying really is it's a matter of practice. I mean, I think the problem I've had in my life is I've looked at too many different things. I've got too many books on the shelf. I've got too many ideas, too many suggestions, too many links sent to me.
You can't do it all.
I know, too many channelers say this and that, and prophets say this and that, and books say this and that, and, you know, techniques and even people suggesting using plant medicine, you know, or rituals, or you know, just like it's way too complicated. All that you need to do is just find a good feeling and know that that feeling is your connection with the divine creator of the entire universe and the will. All right. You got it. Okay. So and the trick, as Holmes says in this video link below, is just to stay with it, just to practice it. Keep it simple. Just do it every day. And if you find yourself, having negative stuff going on or difficulties or challenges, just see if you can bring that energy to that situation, whether you're listening to some video on news, whether you're trying to deal with a job or relationship situation or health situation. Just bring that positive energy to it. See what happens. All right, sweeties. Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of stuff, please subscribe, give it a like, and more of it will come your way. But most of all, what you want to have come your way is those good feelings that originate from inside. They're your link with the divine, with God, with the source.
You need to look at their internal link.
Yeah, look at your own link. We need to find out where our links are inside, how we get to it as quickly as possible. So you can, on a dime, you can go right there whenever time you think of it.
Yeah, go in and find your internal link and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly.